So as you can see, you have different pictures. I lifted this there. The first picture shows about the Philippines, where I am, and it speaks about like freedom, or it speaks about sovereignty. And then you have the second picture. It shows to us about family, and seemingly the family there is happy, So you have their faces showing that they are happy couple with their kid, and also the other picture about one, the different leaders, including President, the ex-president of the United States. You have President Obama and so we have still a lot of pictures to show about the kind of life we deserve. So you see in here problems or pictures about social problems or issues. But in the next slides, I will be showing you a lot of pictures about social problems. So here we go. So when you say social problems, we have homelessness, okay, as you can see there, and then you have also the issue on unemployment. The man says jobless, okay, and then we have here another one. uh, we have some posters. It read, we demand voting rights now. We march for jobs for all now. We demand for decent housing now, and all. So we can see in here that these people are in need of jobs, and they are precisely on a rally, and wanting some changes precisely to happen. Okay, and then another slide is the child showing us, okay, that she is hungry. So she says, I'm hungry. So therefore, another issue that we are struck with is about hunger. So how can we solve no hunger insofar as social problems are concerned? Okay, another one is the picture on, you can see here, poor housing conditions, no? So I'm sure nobody from us here tonight wants to live in this kind of situation. So this is very poor. I mean, this is not the kind of life that we also would like to experience, but it's a reality, no? You may have similar pictures, or you may have similar conditions in Africa about this. So, and it's also happening in other parts of the world, no? So this is an issue of poor housing conditions. So what can we do? So how can we help, no? So that we will be able to uplift the kind of living for these families. And of course, another one. So this is a woman. So our picture shows a woman who is a homeless, no, homeless woman, and uh, it shows that she is also a victim of poverty. So, she should not be in the streets, and she should be living in a good condition, or she should be living in a good housing condition. But see, it's a reality that there is this woman here and a lot more similar conditions out there. There are a lot of homeless families, homeless women who suffer from the effects of homelessness, or uh, you know, there is an absence for housing. Okay, and then we have another one. What can you see on our slide? So this is site. So you must have seen a similar condition also in Nigeria, or in Somalia, or in Kenya. Okay, this is also one of the familiar conditions in the country, in my country, Philippines. So what can we do not to help these families who are in dump sites? Living no, out of this trash or garbages that are thrown in the at dump sites. See, this is not a good condition for many of these families that we can see on our slides, but this is a reality. So what can we do? No? So what can our government do in order to solve this kind of conditions? Okay, another slide. It says here at the middle, we have how poverty is felt by children. Okay, how do children feel about poverty? So you have a lot of images here. Okay, the first one, I would like to start with the heart. Children have the need to be loved. But you see, if children are suffering from poverty, they experience worry. So they are worried. They are worried about their parents. They precisely wonder how their parents will be able to provide for their daily needs. In effect, they are unhappy because they question why they are born and yet they are born in the family and yet they are not able to experience a happy life. So instead of being loved through the provision of concrete basic needs in the family, children otherwise experience to be unhappy. And in effect, they also feel frustrations because there are children who tend to also compare themselves with other children. And so if they see the comparison, then they will experience some level of frustrations. And in effect, also they will be feeling anxious. They're anxious about how will they live a quality life if from the very beginning their families are not able to provide for their basic needs. And then it's a thumbs down, okay? You have a thumbs down and a thumbs up. Thumbs down because if poverty is felt by children, for example, have few opportunities in life. Few opportunities like they will have lack opportunity for education. They will have an experience of lack for opportunities to have healthy foods, healthy living, or they will have an experience, they will experience a lack of um, good housing condition, just like what I have shown you earlier. And in effect, they will feel a certain level of worthlessness. Because if they see their lives as having a lot of luck in life, then they will look at themselves as being worthless, and it will affect their sense of self. They will be affected in terms of how they value themselves. So in effect, they will also experience a certain level of hopelessness. When will they delivered from this kind of life, or will they be able to um, transition, from poverty to a life that is provided with the basic needs and other needs that will give them a quality life. So will give them a sense of social insecurity because they cannot not um, compare themselves with other families. Why do these children in other families have this one and have that one, while my family cannot provide me this needs that I have to experience or I have to have? Okay. Uh, Then I'll go to recreation. Okay, the ball, no, the ball. So it's a symbolism for recreation. It's a symbolism for recreational needs for the family or the recreational needs of the family. So usually when they are experiencing when they are experiencing poverty, children would feel that they are excluded because they cannot mingle well with other children, they cannot mingle well with other families, so they feel a certain level of exclusion. Okay, they are exclusion. in contrast with our promotion of inclusion. Okay, inclusion versus exclusion. Okay, and then they feel constrained. No, there are a lot of constraints. No, why? These children cannot, for example, cannot go to school, cannot mingle with children, cannot feel free in going out and play with other kids. So there is a certain level of constraints. Usually they experience conflicts, no? They experience conflicts because, like, for example, no, families who experience poverty, who have, no, they are, for example, the youth, no, many of them are in conflict with the law, or they are victims of juvenile injustices. So these are some examples of conflicts that the youth uh, will experience if they are experiencing poverty. This will give them a sense of embarrassment. Embarrassed because of them to be happy, they are confident, no, because or they lack a lot able to avail of education, or the education and other basic amenities in life that will experience their self-confidence. Okay, so we have here another one is in terms of housing. Usually, poor families feel insecure and they are in overcrowded homes. Just like one of the slides that I have shown you earlier, families will not feel happy if they live in a very poor housing condition or in a poor housing facilities. There's no place for them to be. And in school, for example, they will be, instead of important here, they will feel unimportant. So you can see a lot of children have been bullied in school because of cannot cope with the demands of schooling. Behind because of some factors like come from usually absent. They you know.
Ms.Ming, we can barely hear
Yes.
you. We can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I think your voice is breaking quite often, such that someone cannot follow up what you're saying. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. So I was telling you about children who cannot cope with demands of schooling. Usually feel a lot of articles already about this. How children are experiencing being bullied and they don't feel well mingling with other children because of they are being left behind, no, in terms of the demands of their schooling, no. And then, for example, teachers in the long run, sometimes they also lack the skill and the ability to understand these kinds of students. So those are families who are suffering from poverty, especially no? And then we have believe that these children or these families have aspirations, they do have hopes and dreams, and we want them to be resilient, no? That they should not give up, should continue to trust. There are people out there who have programs and services, no, that can help them uplift the kind of life that they are experiencing. Okay, so I would like to bring you to the approach that we are going to talk about tonight. So this is about the sociological approach. No, there are different approaches to understand social problems. Am I clear to you? Do you hear me clearly?
You are still
Yes, we
breaking,
do.
but we can hear you.
Okay. So, a sociological approach to understanding problems. So we have the definition of sociology. It is the scientific study of human society and social behavior. It has the scientific tools such as conducting case studies, surveys, and experiments for making sense of social problem. So if we want to study about human society and social behavior, then we have the right, and we call this sociological approach. And we can study social problems through the use of case studies. As professionals make use of this approach or make use of these tools. So through case study reports, we will be able to understand the root causes of these problems or why these social problems exist. And not only through the use of case studies, also through surveys, this will help us understand why these problems exist and the prevalence, no? How many people out there are experiencing these kinds of problems. And lastly, we have experiments for making sense of social problems. Okay, sociology has the rigorous scientific perspective to develop theories about the causes of social problems and to develop proposals and programs to reduce the severity and extent of social problems. So aside from understanding the nature of social problems and their effects to people, we also would like to know these proposals from different organizations, from our government and other entities, and also their programs that will help families who are affected by social problems, so that eventually these problems will be reduced and the extent in terms of its effect to the lives of people also will be reduced. Okay, so we have here, when is a problem a social problem? Do we say that when a person is suffering from a certain problem, it's already called a social problem? Okay, so in the next slides, I will be talking about qualifiers for social problems. So how can we say that conditions are called social problems? So let me give you one example for this. Is surrogate motherhood a social problem? Okay, so I'm sure you know what surrogacy is. Surrogacy or surrogate motherhood, is it a social problem? So I think, can I ask one of the attendees for tonight? Do you have any idea about surrogacy or about surrogate motherhood? What can you say about surrogacy? Is it a social problem or is it a personal problem?
I see. You hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Ibrahim.
Well, actually, motherhood is one of the social problems, I do believe. Because of, according to psychology and other sociological perspectives, the kid should not necessitate his own mom. So, instead of using surrogate motherhood, it is better with to give his original mom with an opportunity to grow their own kids. I do believe it's one of the obstacles that most generations face, more specifically in 21st century. So I do believe it is part with the social problems. So somehow there is possibility of acceptance for that surrogate. Suppose if his mom died or passed away, or if his mom faced other social challenges like health problem, there is possibility that he can have. But if the mom is better, would they have that? So It is part of the problems. Somehow it can be solution. Thank you.
Okay, any more idea about surrogacy or surrogate motherhood? How about the other, aside from Ibrahim? We have another one from Maynes. Maynes is one new attendee for tonight. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah, have
can I
anything to say? Yeah.
can I
Uh,
comment?
yes, comment please.
Thank you very much for having this great question. I would like to say that a problem can be said, a social problem, any condition or behavior that has a negative consequence for large members of the people or society in a certain nation or in the whole nation, in the whole world, that is recognized as a condition or behavior which needs to be addressed. For instance, coronavirus became one of the world circumstances which has been collapse, economic decline, social integration, and many other things. So a social problem is when the connection of the people, the connection of people is not suitable. So I think I would like to say to summarize my comment is this: and social problem is a negative consequence that affect the entire world or a specific nation is or a specific disaster happen in a specific time. Thank you very much.
Okay, may I know your name please?
What?
May I know your name please? Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so your answers are acknowledged. So you cited about the coronavirus, and we are all aware about the impact of the coronavirus. So it's not only affecting a country, but it's a global concern. It's a global crisis. So meaning to say, it's a social problem because a lot of people, you know, it's global, it's widespread, no? The nature of the crisis, or for example, we are talking about the health issue of, you know, the virus, it's widespread everywhere. It's a global concern. So very good example, no? In contrast with the surrogate motherhood that I'm telling you here, wherein not all mothers are in need of this kind of solution. Surrogate motherhood is one solution for families, for example, whose wives are not capable of begetting a child, or is, for example, the wife is confronted with the issue of pregnancy. So this is one very scientific um, mechanism in order to cope with the need, no, to have a child. So not all mothers, or not all families, I should say, will resort to this kind of solution. Okay, so may I then continue with the nature of social problems. So when do we say that a social condition is a social problem, or a problem is a social problem? Okay, so you were right when you said it is worldwide, or it is global, because a lot of people are being affected. So it says here, most people define a social problem a condition that harms their interest. So, yeah, the degree, no? So you have here the second part of the slide. The degree of group's influence is measured by three interrelated factors. So the number of those expressing the concern. So there are a lot of people who are experiencing difficulty because of the severity of the problem, and then the strength with which the concern is expressed. And of course, not only the grassroots people are affected by, for example, the coronavirus, but a lot of our leaders also are expressing their difficulty on how to, lead their communities or lead their countries to cope with the demands of this pandemic. So therefore, one of the qualifiers to make a problem a social problem is that it is felt by an influential group. So therefore, to define and measure whether a group is influential is a difficult task. An influential group is one that appears capable of having a significant impact on social policy at the national level. So therefore, we have our leaders, no, to to define, no, the severity of our problems. So they show this researches or through their surveys on the severity of, for example, the coronavirus, how many people affected by this crisis. Okay. One, the social condition asserted is, the social condition asserted to be a problem. So the simple existence of an undesirable social condition does not make it a social problem. To gain recognition as a problem, one or more influential groups must assert it is a problem so that the general public becomes aware of its existence. Okay, for example, the problem of women